Hey guys, this is B Communications. Welcome to my review of the 1993 action classic Cliffhanger. This is a movie that I find to be one of the most thrilling, exciting movies I've ever seen. It still holds up remarkably well to this day. I feel that this is one of those movies from, the 90s, these old school action films that has aged like a fine wine. The opening sequence is still as harrowing and as thrilling and as nail-biting as it ever was, and the ending is just the stunt work in this is just phenomenal. Some of the stunt work in this is just a lot of stunt work that will never be seen again on film, because first off, they probably did break a lot of whatever rules or whatever when it came to stunts. The film was actually shot in Italy, in these mountains that look a lot like the Rockies, because mainly because they didn't want because the rules are a little bit different. Yeah, because it was filmed in the Cortina d'Ampezzo Dolomites Mountains because of their spectacular similarities to the Colorado Rockies. The production of company, the people producing the film Cliffhanger, they paid about $80,000, 80,000. No, it's about 80 million lire to enter all mountain areas. Yeah, 80 million lire. I don't know how much that is in U.S. dollars, but it's a lot of money. And also this film is in the Guinness Book of World Records for the costliest aerial stunt ever performed. The scene in which Travers crosses from one jet to the other at a height of 15,000 feet was done without the aid of any safety devices or trick photography. The insurance company underwriting the film refused to insure a stuntman for this, so Sylvester Stallone offered to reduce his own fee for the movie by the amount that the stunt costs reduce in order that the film could be made. The stunt was performed by Simon Crane. Because of the extremely dangerous nature of the stunt, it was only performed once. And when you watch the stunt, he doesn't really even get Travers, the stuntman, doesn't even actually get into the plane, but they did a really good job editing it so it looked like he did. And also, they shot that sequence in Europe because it was illegal to shoot something like that, as dangerous as a stunt as dangerous as that, in the United States. Now, the film has an interesting sort of story. It originally wasn't. It was like a rework of a script called Gale Force, and it was originally titled Gale Force under the Carloco Studio. The script concerned Sylvester Stallone fighting a band of terrorists in a coastal town during a hurricane. This deemed too expensive to produce after investing roughly $2 million in script rewrites in the original, and the plug was pulled. The basic concept was then carried over to this film, Cliffhanger, with the same director Renny Harlin and star Sylvester Stallone attached. Renny Harlin at first didn't want to do this movie because he didn't want to do another Die Hard 2, but ultimately he decided to do the project, which I'm glad because, in my opinion, I like Die Hard 2 a lot, but I would say it's my favorite Renny Harlin film is Cliffhanger. He does a really great job directing this movie. And Michael France sold the actual script, Cliffhanger script, to Cargo Pictures for $500,000. And the company was then visited by two independent producers, Gene Hines and James Zatolokin, who provided proof that France was not the originator of the story. It turned out the idea had been first developed in the 1980s by Hines and world-famous climber and author John Long. Carlco agreed to pay Hines and Zatolokin a producer's fee of $400,000 and gave them a co-producing credit. John Long received based on premise by credit in the opening credits of the film. Now, yeah, the movie's most breathtaking scenes were shot in the Cortina d'Ampezzo Dolomites Mountains. The bridge scene was shot on Mount Cristallo, Ferrata Ivano di Bona, and the crew stayed in Cortina for about more than 3 months. And further climbing took place in Durango, Colorado. The credits of the film also thank the Ute tribe for filming in the Ute Mountain Reservation. 31 well-known climbers were signed up, including Ron Koch and Wolfgang Gulick. Gulick performed many of the film's stunts. He was actually Stallone's stuntman in the film. And Wolfgang Gulick, he performed as a climbing double for Stallone. And sadly, the film is actually dedicated to Wolfgang Gulick, because he was killed in a car accident shortly after the film was finished. So I mean that's really too bad, but he did an amazing job with the stunts in this. Wolfgang Gulick. There's some just breathtaking stunts in this movie that, it's on a real mountain, and there's just something to say about actually doing these real stunts on a real mountain, instead of a CGI mountain or a CGI background, or instead of doing it behind a green screen. There's a big difference here. I mean, Cliffhanger has some just breathtaking, jaw-dropping stunts in this movie, and there's some moments where you can tell they're like on a set, not actually on the cliff. But they still did it. I still prefer that over a CGI background, because it still won't look nearly as realistic as it could. Now, also, what's interesting about the film's production, Carl Coe originally signed Sylvester Stallone to appear opposite John Candy in a comedy directed by John Hughes about feuding neighbors called Bartholomew and Neff. And then the project was actually dropped, and Stallone was persuaded to appear in Cliffhanger instead. And Renny Harlin, the director Renny Harlin, in order to demonstrate faith in the safety equipment, director Renny Harlin put on a harness and flung himself out on a cable over a cliff. And in the opening scene where Sarah slips from Gabe's hand, and it had to be done several times because Sarah's glove would not slip off as desired. In order to get it to slide off, director Renny Harlin had a rare glove that was a couple sizes too big and filled the glove with Vaseline, and even then Sylvester Stallone's grip was too tight and the glove almost stayed on. Sneak preview audiences saw a scene where a rabbit gets killed by gunfire. The reaction was strong enough for Sylvester Stallone to invest $100,000 of his own money to have the scene reshot so that the rabbit escaped. Christopher Walken was actually cast as Quaylen, but he ended up leaving the production before filming began, so John Lithgow was cast at the very last minute. And contrary to pretty much a lot of popular belief, this is not the first time John Lithgow has played a villain in a film. In 1991, he played a villain, Earl Talbot Blake, in a pretty underrated, fun, entertaining, no-brainer action thriller called Ricochet, which is directed by Russell Mulcahy. So Mulcahy, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but he directed Highlander. So this wasn't the first time he played a villain. And that's what I thought for the longest time until I saw Ricochet recently, and that actually predated Cliffhanger by about a couple years. During the two-story high cliff built for the climactic battle sequence, burned to the ground completely in 8 minutes, when the miniature helicopter explosion got out of control. The heat of the fire was so intense it melted one of the cameras. And, during one climbing scene, director Renny Harlin complained that the safety lines were visible, so the stuntmen performed the climbing without any safety lines. Woo! That's dangerous. Paramount was actually forced to pay out an additional $750,000 to 3 separate writers who were all claiming credit for the story. And electrical storms hit during filming, knocking down 5 crew members. Climber Earl Wiggins was hit 3 times, but was only slightly injured, thankfully. And during a later storm, crew members had fun taking pictures of each other with their hair standing on end, while the climbers pointed out the wisdom of evacuating. In the original cut of the film shown to test audiences, there was a 40-foot jump from one cliff to another that Sylvester Stallone's character performs. This scene appears in the theatrical trailers to the film. It was cut because test audiences laughed out loud when they saw it and thought it was totally impossible. The clip of the jump was redone and then used for a shorter jump off a cliff near the end of the film using computer graphics and special effects. And whatever CG they'd used was completely unrecognizable, even after all these years. I don't even know where it is. And the Cave of Bats scene, the bat scene on screen were actually added after filming as a special effect. Real bats were brought in to fill the cave, but Sylvester Stallone and Janine Turner were too afraid to shoot the scene with live bats. Ron Koch was Sylvester Stallone's stunt double and really had to bulk up. He wasn't his climbing double. That was Wolfgang Gulick. So Ron Koch ended up eating 5 carbohydrate-heavy meals a day and pumped a lot of iron. The trainer wanted to have him eat a 6th meal in the middle of the night. Koch also doubled for Leon, a 6'3" black actor, and Janine Turner. which I find pretty funny. That he also doubled for Janine Turner. This, you know, it was kind of funny. I wonder how they covered that up. This big, tall guy doubling as some, shorter, petite woman. Uh, One of the buckles on the horse's girdle is actually a piece of climbing equipment. And the Denver Mint, featured in the film as a producer of the cash stolen by Quaylen and his associate, only produces coins. $100 million from the Denver Mint would weigh 2,500 tons. And the teddy bear that falls off the cliff in the opening scene was not scripted, but was added at the last minute. Renny Harlin liked the bear so much that he bought it so that the audience would have a clear idea of what would happen and how horrific the fall was. It was actually a really good choice by Renny Harlin to add in the bear. Anyway, really enjoy this movie. I found Cliffhanger to just be an absolute classic. I don't think it's one of those movies that's, it's not a great movie. No, Cliffhanger is a great film. For what it is, it's a great movie. I think it holds up phenomenally well. It's still thrilling. It's still exciting. It's still a lot of fun to watch. And I think it also had one of the best trailers ever. The one that had the Hang On title for it. Yeah, I mean, one of the best trailers ever with I think it's, was it Carmina Fortuna or something? I think it's the same, I think it's the same music that was in the Excalibur trailer, I think. But it's a beautiful piece of classical music. It's an amazing trailer. And the movie was a surprise hit. It was made for $65 million, and it ended up getting a budget, a worldwide box office of $255 million, $255,325,036 in terms of total gross, and which is pretty amazing, and had a decent amount of praise, except for the bullshit Razzie Awards, who nominated this for the worst of the year, which is bullshit. Razzie Awards, I can enjoy reading their book, The Official Razzie Movie Guide, but they're full of shit when they just keep constantly just saying, Stallone's in this movie, so it's terrible because Stallone is in it, and we hate Stallone, so we're just going to nominate it as the worst of the year, which is fucking bullshit. This movie doesn't deserve to be in anybody's worst list. If you want to put it there, go right ahead. But I don't think it deserves to be there. I'm not the only one that feels that way. Yeah, the film was actually originally rated NC-17 by the Motion Picture Association of America on account of its violence. Several cuts were made to almost every violent scene in the film in order to get an R rating. Several death scenes in the film were shot in slow motion and lasted several seconds. For instance, in the beginning of the film, the pilot of the plane shoots the co-pilot in the head in a very brief shot. And in the NC-17 version, this is a shot from a different angle that showed blood splattering on the window. Bootleg DVD copies taken from a time-coded VHS work print featured the original rough cut of the film, complete with uncut violent scenes. Travers' death originally featured him being shot in the shoulder by Gabe with a bolt gun and blasted with a shotgun by Hal. This was then changed to Gabe firing the gun 3 times, not due to censorship, but because the review of the dailies caused the filmmakers to think of a somewhat slicker death. And also, some people don't like, they criticize the movie for its unrealistic portrayal of rock climbing. One example is the feature of the bolt gun, which fires bolts directly into rock, foregoing the use of rock drilling and bolt hammering used in rock climbing. This ignores certain material properties of rock that cause the bolt gun's impact site to shatter and explode with freaky projectiles. The bolt gun is considered the most serious of the film's technical inaccuracies, and further examples of showing athletic moves which have no use in real climbing or free soloing, and then also completely useless gear. So what? It's a very entertaining, fun movie. I'm not giving a shit if it's 100% accurate to rock climbing specs. And the bolt gun, okay, it's a movie, and it was cool, and it was used really well in the scene where Gabe kills Travers. Now, the film has a really solid cast. You have Sylvester Stallone as Gabe Walker, who plays a mountain climber and rescue ranger, who is, I think this is one of his better performances. He plays more of a human guy. He's not a superhuman character in this film. He isn't really, He's beatable. In the scene in the cave, Leon is kicking his ass, and I like that. I like that sort of touch that he's not a master fighter. He's not. He's not even that experienced. He's just really experienced with climbing. He knows his way around the mountain, and he's really skilled in that regard. But he's not a skilled fighter. And so I like that aspect of Stallone's character in this. He was very vulnerable in this film, and it was really nice to see that aspect of a character, especially a character that, of all people, Sylvester Stallone is playing. Kind of like Rocky on the mountains, really. Rocky was a good fighter, but he wasn't unstoppable, and he wasn't unbeatable. Well, I guess you could say he might have been unbeatable in the ring later in his career, but all I'm saying is he wasn't Rambo. And when the book, the novelization which I have, said that he was Rambo on a mountain, I disagree with that. I don't think Gabe Walker is not Rambo. He's more familiar, so similar to sort of to Rocky more than he is Rambo, because he's an all right fighter. He can hold his own, but really he's just a really strong guy. And that's his big advantage. John Lithgow plays Eric Quaylen. I think his performance is great. I love it. He's just having so much sadistic glee with the performance. It's really entertaining. Michael Rooker plays Hal Tucker, Gabe's best friend. Michael Rooker does a great job too. Has his fair share of good moments here. Janine Turner plays Jessie, Gabe's girlfriend, who also works with the Mountain Search and Rescue Group. And Michael Rooker also works for the rescue group as well. Janine Turner, this is a standout role for her. This is definitely the film role that she's most remembered for, and for good reason. I thought she did a really solid job here. Rex Linn plays Richard Travers. Very fun role. I love seeing this guy get pissed off, and I like to call him an angry, pissed off Dr. Phil, because he really does. He looks like Dr. Phil, and he kind of sounds like Dr. Phil. Like, God damn it, Quaylen! God damn it! You need... He sounds exactly like Dr. Phil. Like, oh, Travers, I guess he did survive in the end. He went on to have his own talk show. You need to listen to me, Travers. You need to listen to me, Quaylen. It's got 50 different combinations. Figure it out. You need to discipline your children. It's totally Travers. If you watch this movie, try not to think of Dr. Phil as Travers. Really try, because he's got the ball. He's balding. He's got the stash. It's totally Dr. Phil. It's angry, pissed off Dr. Phil. And anyway, Carolyn Goodall plays Crystal, Quaylen's pal and companion. And she does a good job. She has a few moments of fun lines of dialogue. After Quaylen watches her assemble a bomb in the film, it's like, you'll make a good wife for someone one day. You should see me bake a cake. And some fun moments there. And Leon plays Kynette, Quaylen's brutal main henchman. And this is totally different. Like, I grew up watching Cool Runnings, so when I see him in this as this sadistic, asshole, it's totally a different, it's really a shock, and he does a great job. Leon does a great job, and I think he's really underrated as Kynette. He does a great job as this character. He goes from this calm, cool, collected, likable guy in Cool Runnings to this ruthless bastard, and he does a great job with the performance in this film. Craig Fairbrass plays Nelmar, who's an ex-soccer player turned henchman. He has a fun brief fight scene with Michael Rooker. Gregory Scott Cummins plays Ryan, one of Quaylen's henchmen. Denis Forest plays Heldon, one of Quaylen's henchmen. Michelle Joyner plays Sarah, Hal's ill-fated girlfriend. She does a really good job. I really thought she did an amazing job in the beginning of the film. I really did feel for that character. It's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. You're not going to die. I don't want to die. And Paul Winfield has a brief role as Walter Wright, not White. No Breaking Bad here. Walter Wright, a U.S. Treasury agent who discovered Quaylen's plot to rob the money for the U.S. Treasury. Ralph Waite plays Frank, search and rescue pilot working for Gabe, Jesse, and Hal. I really liked Ralph Waite. He was a really likable, personable old man and a very kind personality. He did a great job with his performance. And when the whole scene when he gets shot is really sad. Although people have pointed this out, and I did notice it too. In the beginning, where Sarah's in danger, he, he's kind of has this grin on his face. He's like, and she's like, "Help me! Help me! I want to die! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" You look at the film. Look at some screenshots, and Frank does look like he's smiling. And it is. I think it's just because of the actor. You watch his earlier films, and that's just kind of what he does. But it just looks like he's just taking sadistic glee in this whole scene, and just really honestly, if you pay attention to that, it kind of makes the opening sequence kind of, I don't know, kind of funny, but in a disturbing way. But kind of funny. Because she dies and he's like, "Ah, yay!" But really, that's not. I think that's just the way he's acting is, and I wouldn't want it any other way. And to be honest, I didn't notice it that much. I saw a glimpse of it, and then I was just too busy biting my nails off because of the suspense. And that's a testament to this film. I've seen this movie dozens upon dozens of times. This is one of the first DVDs I remember getting with my own money when I was I think in my pre-teens actually, so, or at least in high school. And I remember getting that one, Cliffhanger, because I really wanted the movie, because first saw it on VHS and I really loved it, so I wanted to get the DVD, and I've had this DVD ever since. This is one of my first DVDs that I purchased, so to see how much I love it. So how much I've seen it a lot. And that scene still gets me every time. I'm in shock. I get chills. It's a really excellent opening sequence. One of the best ever, in my opinion, in terms of opening sequences. And then you also have Max Perlich and Troy Bono as Evan and Brett, these thrill-seeking kids, young kids. They really do. They're the one guys that kind of date the film a little bit with their 90s surfer dude dialect and extreme. It's going to be extreme, man. Yeah, it's just really, yeah. They're okay, but honestly, I could do without them easily, those characters. Vito Ruginas plays Matheson, an undercover FBI agent who foils the mid-air robbery. John Finn plays Agent Michaels. Bruce McGill has a very brief role as a Treasury agent. He ends up getting shot, and that's pretty much rounding out the cast. Now, the basic gist of the plot. I mean, the film was directed by Renny Harlin. Renny Harlin also produced it. He also Alan Marshall was one of the producers as well, and executive producer was Mario Kassar. Michael France helped with the screenplay, as well as Sylvester Stallone. And it is edited by Frank J. Urioste. I don't know how do you pronounce that, but he's the guy who's edited a lot of Carlico films. And cinematographer by Alex Thompson, who did a great job, and a score by Trevor Jones. I think he does a great job. I love this score, especially the opening titles. And people say it's a lot like Last of the Mohicans. I don't really care. I still really love the score. It's a beautiful piece of music, and it really does fit the film like a glove. The film opens up with an opening sequence where you have Michael Rooker's character, Hal Tucker, takes this young girl, inexperienced climber, Sarah, his girlfriend, up to this, mountain climbing. And they end up getting stuck on a narrow peak in the Rocky Mountains called the Tower, because he ends up getting stranded up there because he hurt his knee. So while moving up from one mountaintop to a helicopter via a steel cable, Hal's girlfriend Sarah, so what happened? Of course, this is trying to shorten it here, but this is a very excellent scene, and I just kudos to everyone involved who shot this sequence. They did an amazing job, because it's just a very harrowing, very thrilling, very nail-biting sequence of suspense and thrills. It is just an amazing sequence. And so first, of course, you pan out, beautiful pan out shots in the beginning with the credits, and then you pan out and you see Stallone climbing on the side of a mountain, which probably isn't Stallone, it's probably his climbing double Wolfgang Gulick. And then you have the whole thing where Hal has some fun lines about a hot tub, and so the rescue team comes in, and Hal's kind of a dick about it too. Like, he cooks on his harness and he acts like a dick while he gets on the harness. Like, whoa! It's like, no, I'm just joking. Ha ha ha. It's like, this isn't shit to be joking about, man. And then he slides all the way across the wire that's hooked up from the helicopter to part of the cliff, and he slides back to the helicopter, and his girlfriend is next. And Stallone has, some fun scenes where he's talking to her, trying to get her to be comfortable. And even, Janine Turner adds in the whole sort of stuff where, it's like, you tell him, Gabe, if he's flirting with Sarah, I'm not going to be happy later, or something like that. I don't know the exact lines of dialogue, but, I like Stallone's version. Like, hey, come on! It's nothing. I'm just trying to cheer her up. So anyway, of course, Sarah's like, "Are we still on for dinner tonight?" Of course we are. And so it's a really well done sequence, and it's very memorable because of the way that things play out. Not very often in a film like this do you start out with the hero's failure. You usually start out with a hero's success. You don't start out with a hero's failure, and I think that's another reason why this film holds up so well, because in comparison to a lot of these other type of movies, you don't really have that sort of opening. It starts out with a hero's failure. And so she gets on the harness connected. She puts the harness on, Stallone's, consoling her. He's like, don't look down. Whatever you do, don't look down. It's like, and so it's like, that's it. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're already a pro. Come on. You're going to be over there in no time. She's like sliding along. And then her cable starts to break loose. And it's a very tense sequence. And then she slips. He's holding onto the cable. And of course, Gabe's friend, Hal, is saying like, get her, don't, it's like, I'll send down the harness. Don't go, the wire can't hold both your weight. And Stallone's character, Gabe, doesn't even think twice. He climbs on the wire and grabs her with one arm before she falls off. And of course, he's holding on to her for dear life. And I thought the performance by, I believe it's, I just gotta find her name again, Michelle Joyner, was really well done. I really did believe in her fear. She's like, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. It's like, you're not gonna die, you're not gonna die. Just give me you in the head. Just give me, come on, Sarah, just give me you in the head. And he's holding on, and his friend Hal screaming from the other side, don't you dare drop her, Gabe! Don't you drop her, Gabe! And he's like, I'm holding her, and he's like, ugh! And he's holding on to her. And then, of course, she's still screaming, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. And she ends up, her glove slips. And she falls out of her. He's like, I'm slipping, I'm slipping. He's like, Sarah, hold on. And I'm slipping. And then her hand slips out of the glove. And then she falls screaming to her death. It's a very intense sequence. You're just like, I remember can you imagine your reaction when you first saw this movie? Like, people who saw it in 93. Not expecting this opening, that's for sure. Although I read something where some people were being assholes about the opening when this person saw it in the theater. I saw this on IMDb post. This person saw Cliffhanger in the theater in 93. And there were people being assholes in the front row, and people being obnoxious and laughing at the opening sequence. Be like, ha ha ha, and saying fucked up shit like, I don't want to die. And they're like, you're gonna die, and throwing popcorn at the screen. And then when she died, they were laughing. I'm like, what the hell? Man, that theater must have had some sadistic motherfuckers in the audience. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, So after that, I thought Stallone's performance acting-wise was fantastic. I mean, after she falls to his death, Stallone just puts his hands on his head. He's just like, "Ugh." Yeah, that was really, it's a stunning way to open your movie. You're just like, what? Holy shit. And of course, after that, you know, 8 months later goes past, 8 months passes, and Gabe ends up returning to town for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Overcome with guilt over having lost Sarah, Gabe is only returned to pack his remaining possessions and leave permanently and convince Jesse to come with him. However, a radio distress call comes into the local rescue center where Hal and Jesse still work, and Hal heads off to find the stranded climbers while Jesse pleads with Gabe to join Hal's rescue attempt. So, of course, this is all after the heist happened, which is another thrilling sequence, the mid-air transfer scene. Really well done. Puts Christopher Nolan's scene in Dark Knight Rises to shame. I mean, this scene is literally 15,000 feet in the air. This isn't like a crane or whatever and shot or whatever. This is shot 15,000 feet in the air. And it's a stunning sequence. It's still a stunning stunt to watch to this day. And this one treasure agent guy that thought he was dead, he gets back up and shoots some people on the plane, fucks up the plane, and the money gets lost in the mountains, and their plane ends up crashing. And so now they end up making a fake distress call in order to get people to come so they can get off. They can get people to lead them to experts to lead them to the money and then possibly get them a way out. Maybe through a helicopter or something like that. So that's the distress call that comes into the local rescue center. So Gabe ends up meeting Hal in the mountain. Hal, still angry with Gabe because he blames him for Sarah's death. He ends up lashing out and he almost throws Gabe off a ledge. And of course, Gabe's all like, go ahead, do it. And of course, he doesn't do it. He's like, no, I'm going to let you live with it. And because he blames him for his girlfriend's death. But when you think about it, it's his fault. It's really, most of the blame falls on Hal. He took this inexperienced climber, he took his girlfriend, who's an inexperienced climber, up onto this tower, and he wasn't prepared, and something bad happened, an accident happened, and the harness he was going to throw on the line wouldn't have done jack shit, because how is she going to put the harness on? And if Stallone didn't run across that line and was there to grab her, she would have been dead earlier. So she didn't have the upper body strength, or she was too freaked out to give his other hand, and things turned out for the worst. But you can't really blame Stallone. You can't really blame your friend for that. You shouldn't have had her up there in the first place. And that's even what Janine Turner's character says. She says you shouldn't have had her up there in the first place. Jesse says, it's not your fault, Gabe. Hal shouldn't have had her up there in the first place. And of course, Gabe says, no, it is my fault. Of course, this becomes sort of fighting his inner demon type thing. Of course, the distress call turns out to be fake. The two climbers are then taken prisoner by a group of ruthless thieves led by former military intelligence member Eric Quaylen, played by John Lithgow, who seeks to recover 3 suitcases containing $100 million in uncirculated $1,000 bills belonging to the U.S. Treasury Department. With the aid of turncoat U.S. Treasury agent Richard Travers, played by Rex Linn, Quaylen and his mercenaries attempt to steal the suitcase via a daring air-to-air transfer, which I mentioned earlier, and the transfer is foiled by undercover FBI agent. They crash, but they need expert help locating these suitcases, and they also have beacon locators inside them. And Travers has this machine that's able to track her, this tracking device. It's the only reason why he's still kept alive, because Quaylen's asking for it. He's like, 50,000 different key combinations. Figure it out. Okay, Mr. Travers, have it your way. Who gives him the fucking... He's like, get off my back, Quaylen! I have your back? Get off your back, Travers? I haven't even got on it yet. I just have a lot of fun with the moments where Quaylen is just ribbing Travers. And, or angry, pissed off Dr. Phil. And so They end up getting Hal and Gabe to look for the cases. They locate the first of the cases by telling Gabe to fetch. The whole thing was like, puts a rope around him. Gabe's supposed to climb up this side of this cliff and go up and find the case up on top of the cliff. And of course, I remember that whole line of I always, I think Quaylen was just yelling in his ear, like, fetch! So it's like, fetch, little doggy, fetch. And, of course, there's also another scene where it's just, I really love a lot of lines of dialogue from Eric Quaylen. Even before the plane crashes, he's talking to Tucker. He's all like, don't bother to buckle up. You may not want to survive this. Or, you want to kill me, don't you, Tucker? Well, get a number and get in line. And Travers is well, it's actually, so, of course, that's earlier as Tucker. Hal wants to kill him. And Travers is talking to Tucker and Walker, talking about the bags. It's like, Tucker and Walker, we're missing 3 bags. Gabe's like, what's in them? None of your fucking business. Suits, socks, $100 million. The usual stuff. Then he sends him up there to get it. Gabe to get the bag. He finds it. He breaks it open, the rocks. Sees all the money. And his friend Hal warns him that they're going to kill him because they have no need for him. So they try to pull him, because he's tethered to a rope. So they try to pull him and because he's tied to the rope. So they try to pull him off the cliff to kill him. Gabe ends up freeing himself from the rope in a pretty tense sequence. And the group begins firing up the mountain. A moron shoots fucking bunch of grenades at this shelf of ice and snow, which causes an avalanche, which ends up killing Helbin, one of Quaylen's thugs. And then seeing the money flutter down from the top of the mountain because Gabe throws the case, Quaylen presumes that Gabe is dead and orders the group to proceed to the second chase. Gabe actually survives the avalanche and then makes his way back to an abandoned cabin where he finds Jesse, who was airlifted into the area earlier. And that was a really cool scene where he's trying to climb to get to a shelter, climbing on this ice wall. It's really well shot and really well done. And so this abandoned cabin, and together they end up reaching the case only moments before Quaylen and his mercenaries arrive. They find the case empty except for a single $1,000 bill with the words "want to trade" written on it, and they split up to find Gabe. Quaylen's mercenary Ryan, played by Gregory Scott Cummins, chases after Gabe and Jesse. Gabe and Ryan slide down a hill, fighting, and the thug is killed when he flies out into abyss as Gabe hangs onto a cliff at the last second with the pickaxe. Really well done sequence, short bit of action. And you have I like the whole aspect where they use night vision in that sequence as well. Because they cut, sequences with night vision goggles and so forth. Two of Hal's friends casually hang out at the mountain, run into Hal and the thieves. Hal tells them to run, but as they do, one is shot dead by Quaylen's mercenary Kynette, played by Leon. The other pair shoots off a cliff, where his parachute is caught on a tree branch, leaving him dangling off the ground. When Gabe makes an attempt to climb out of a crevice, he is spotted by Kynette. A fight ensues between Gabe and Kynette in the cave, resulting in Kynette being impaled on a stalactite, which is a really fun sequence, really well done sequence of brief fights and action and so forth. And I like also the whole thing where they found a suitcase that has like the $1,000 bill. There was a snowman they built. I love Travers' reaction. He finds a $1,000 bill that says "want to trade," and he's like, "Walker, you son of a bitch! You bastard!" And punches the fucking snowman. A moment of unnecessary violence to a snowman. Anyway, fun scene with Leon, really kicking his ass, and of course he's saying, "Time to kill a mountain man." And of course earlier he's like, "Where's the money? Where's the money, Walker?" So I don't have it. "Where's the money?" "I burned it." "You're lying." "Wrong answer." Just kicking the shit out of him. And then, of course he comes in and he's like, "Time to kill a mountain man. It amazes me in this day and age when a man will put money before the personal safety of himself and his bitch." I wanted you to go to your grave knowing that I'm gonna treat the bitch right. And then Gabe then grabs him by his crotch and his chest and then impales him on a large stalactite, which is a really awesome sequence. It's just like, I'm gonna treat the bitch right. It's like, then, right, impales him right on the fucking stalactite. Leon got pwned. So anyway, I love that sequence. It's really badass. So Gabe then tries to pick up the thief's radio to call the rescue helicopter, but Hal alerts Gabe that Quaylen's planting explosives directly above him and plans to kill him. Gabe and Jesse barely escape. In a really fun sequence. Really thrilling, exciting use of the cliffs and everything, and they're swinging to get away from the explosion, and really, really awesome sequence. And the following, so then what happens is the thieves with Hal Stowe as their guide make it to the abandoned cabin for the night. Meanwhile, Gabe and Jesse hole up in the cave and stay warm by burning the money they found to stoke the fire. Helicopter pilot Frank. Well, that's actually happened earlier. Wikipedia has this backwards. That happened earlier before they even stayed in. They didn't stay in a cave. They did that outside. No, they did that. They did stay in a cave, but I don't think they burned the money in a cave. They burned it outside, like in the trees somewhere. And that's where we have, fun lines of dialogue where Gabe, he's burning the stolen money. He's like, costs a fortune to heat this place. And so anyway, that happened before the fight with Kynette. And so then the helicopter pilot Frank, played by Ralph Waite, having not received any response from Jesse, Gabe, or Hal, flies over to the mountain where he finds Hal's friend stuck in a tree, cuts him down, transports him to safety, and alerts authorities as well. Shoots his gun and scares away all these wolves from this poor guy who's caught in a tree. Then the following morning, Gabe and Jesse attempt to beat the thieves to the remaining case. Crystal, Carolyn, Goodall flags down the helicopter. Against Quaylen's orders, Delmar shoots Frank. And I really like the way that Renny Harlin shot these sequences in slow-mo. It really made them even more shocking and heartbreaking, so to speak. And of course, cut with just the subtle moments of just Hal screaming for Frank. Frank! So Frank gets shot by Delmar. Hal crawls over to Frank, and just before dying, Frank, he takes a knife from Frank. Hal sticks it in his boot, and the thieves walk over to the helicopter. Travers at this point pulls a gun on Quaylen, telling everyone that he's now in charge of the operation. Quaylen, held at gunpoint, states that without someone to pilot the helicopter, nobody will even be able to get off the mountain, and he shoots Crystal dead, the only other mercenary with pilot experience. Which I like. I like that, it just shows how crazy Quaylen is. You have that line of dialogue where he's all like talking about, do you know what real love is, Crystal? No? He whispers in her ear, sacrifice. And then he shoots her right in the chest. Very memorable, fun villain by John Lithgow. I didn't think he sucked. There are people who said he was terrible. I respectfully disagree. So anyway, once again with the leverage over Travers, Quaylen asks Travers, Hal, and Delmar to track the case. Once within reasonably close distance of the case, Travers leaves Delmar to kill Hal, only to find that Gabe has beaten him to the chase once again, because he took the money, put it in his bag, and then he ended up putting the tracer on a rabbit. And so Delmar beats Hal and nearly kicks him off a cliff, which is a fun, he's kicking the shit out of him with, his boots, with a bunch of kicks. It was like, tell me, do you like soccer? Do you like soccer? It's a great sport. I was a fucking good striker, And he's like, he goes to the left, and he kicks, it's like, dribbles past the defender, and he hits him. And so he's just like kicking the shit out of Hal. And he kicks him off the cliff, he thinks, but Hal holds on. And he takes the knife that he took from Frank, stabs it in fucking Delmar's knee, then grabs the shotgun from off his back and has a fun one-liner. He's like, season's over, asshole! Shoots him right in the fucking chest of the shotgun. Sends his ass flying over the fucking cliff to his death. And meanwhile, Jesse, who signaled the rescue helicopters, thinking it'd be Frank, is taken hostage by Quaylen. Travers discovers that Gabe has found the last case before him, and he furiously chases Gabe, causing Gabe, Gabe ends up actually hiding in this frozen river, and he pulls Travers through this, broken down bridge. And speaking of bridges, I forgot to mention there's one scene, which is a short scene, but a really memorable one, where Stallone, Gabe, and Jesse are trying to go up the bridge that Quaylen and company were crossed earlier, but she trips a wire, which is for explosives. He's like, Jesse, run! And she runs away, and then, Gabe barely makes it. Stallone barely makes it while the bridge explodes behind him. Really great shot. And so I also like, Travers is losing his mind, and he's like, Eric Quaylen is like, Travers, have you lost your mind? Have I lost it? Fucking A, I've lost it, Quaylen. Pure fucking Section 8. He's talking to Quaylen over the radio. It's Walker. Son of a bitch is still alive, Quaylen. No names. This is an open line. I don't give a damn. Eric Quaylen. It was a lot of fun. And so anyway, what happens is Quaylen takes Jesse, and Gabe has this really cool scene, which I really like the way that it's shot, where Travers is hunting after him. Excuse me, allergies are acting up for some goddamn reason. And so anyway, so Gabe's going after Travers, and I like the way he does it. He takes off his clothes, he takes off his shirt, and he ends up swimming. He gets in underneath the ice, and he takes the bolt gun. And of course, Travers, I got you now, Gabe. I got you now, Walker. You're dead. And then he pulls out the bolt gun and shoots through the ice 3 fucking bolts right into Travers' chest, and he falls into the ice. Hal ends up saving Walker, then pulls him out of the ice. And then, communicating by radio, Quaylen and Gabe make a deal to exchange Jesse for the money that Gabe collected from the third case. Quaylen releases Jesse because Gabe says, in the meet him at this Bicker ladder area. And he tells him, I'll give you the money if you give me Jesse. But he releases Jesse, but then Gabe throws the money in the helicopter's rotors, and in confusion, Quaylen's helicopter falls precariously against the side of the mountain, suspended by a steel cable that Gabe attached to it. And you even have like a fun line of dialogue before that, where Stallone is talking about Quaylen is talking to Gabe, and I must say, you're a real piece of work. And Gabe's like, I must say, you're a real piece of shit. This is just like the way he nonchalantly delivered that line of dialogue. And so the helicopter, because it's now, attached steel cables attached to the ladder and Bicker ladder, it ends up falling against the side of a mountain. Gabe and Quaylen fight on top of the dangling wreck, and Gabe manages to jump off. He kicks his ass, and he's doing a really good job, punches him in the face, and then he has this badass one-liner, which I love, where Gabe's all like, remember, shithead, keep your arms and legs in the vehicle at all times! And it kicks him right into the fucking helicopter as it falls, off the bridge, off the ladder that's suspending it. And Gabe's holding on for dear life on the side of the cliff. And I like the way it zooms. The editing in it is where it zooms in on a shot of John Lithgow's face. It's like, boom, boom, big explosion that I guess destroyed the entire set and melted a camera. But it was worth it, trust me. It was definitely worth it. And so Gabe ends up getting helped back up, and by his friend Hal, and Jesse are up on the mountain. And he ends up getting radioed by and then they end up getting radioed by federal agents. And Hal quotes the fun quote line of dialogue too, where if you're looking for Mr. Quaylen, try about 4,000 feet south of here. He'll be the one wearing a helicopter. And then the film ends as Gabe, Hal, and Jesse await rescue by the agents. And then you have the score by Trevor Jones in the background. And that pans out. Beautiful scenery, beautiful shot. And an excellent movie. Really a great way to end a great movie. I love Cliffhanger. I really don't know what to say about Cliffhanger except it's one of the most thrilling movies I've ever seen and still is to this day. Excellent film. Great thriller. Great action movie. One of the best action movies in the 90s. Hands down. And I really don't know what to say about it except one of my favorite Stallone films, definitely. It's definitely my top 5. I really don't know what to say about Cliffhanger except thanks for watching my review. Of course, rate out of 5. It gets 5 out of 5. I find nothing wrong with this movie. Anyway, nothing else to say about the film except thanks for watching my review of Cliffhanger, and I will see you guys later. See ya.